I'm really encouraged to see the way coaching is evolving into something much more modern and dynamic. We've left behind those old school, rigid schemes, and now we're witnessing offenses that move with more creativity and fluidity. The days of just lining up and waiting for a play to unfold are giving way to motion-heavy approaches, where players are constantly shifting, creating confusion and mismatches for the defense. It reminds me a bit of that Schottenheimer era when teams started experimenting with more motion and pre-snap movement to open up options. I hope this trend continues because having a creative offense isn't just exciting to watch, it actually forces defenses to adjust in real time, making the game more unpredictable and fun. I remember when I first saw some of these ideas under coaches like Kellen Moore, and it felt like a breath of fresh air, but then it seemed like that momentum fizzled out for a bit when Moore's influence waned. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic. I've seen these sparks before only to watch them die down. So I'm hoping this time the creative approach sticks and evolves as the season progresses. Honestly, I'm not just hoping to see it in the early months, I want to see it sustained deep into the season, when teams are really battling for playoff positioning and every single play counts. It's like expecting fireworks on New Year's Eve, but then having to wait until the 4th of July to get the real show. But hey, that's just my hope, shaped a bit by past disappointments. When it comes to players, there's one name that often comes up in trade talks, and that's Micah Parsons. His value on the market is a hot topic right now, and understandably so. One more year of underperformance could really drag his trade stock down, which would be a huge blow for a player who's been such a dynamic force on defense. I see him as something like Taco 2.0, a player with immense potential and impact, but whose future hinges heavily on how this season unfolds. Some people expressed doubts about certain aspects of how Micah has been handled, especially with the Cowboys' management swinging between asking him to drop weight and then bolt back up. That kind of back and forth isn't ideal for any athlete's development. Stability is key, and constantly changing a player's physical build can mess with performance and confidence. There's no doubt he's got concerns around him, but despite all that, his trade value right now isn't sky high. If the Cowboys were to try trading him, the best they could hope for would probably be a mid-to late third-round pick, not exactly what you want for a player of his caliber. Realistically, a trade involving him would only make sense if it's part of a swap with another player who's also been disappointing, something along the lines of the Kelvin Joseph deal. Otherwise, given the Cowboys' thin depth on the defensive line, it might be smarter to just keep fingers crossed that Micah turns things around this year. Personally, I'm not overly confident about that happening, but the risk of losing him for a low return is something the Cowboys have to weigh carefully. There's also been chatter about swapping Micah Parsons for Quinnen Williams, which raises some interesting questions. Does it make sense to trade away a strength to cover a weakness? I get the idea behind flipping an edge rusher for a defensive tackle. Teams do that all the time to balance their roster, but trading your best player for someone else just because it fits a positional need, that's a tougher sell. Micah Parsons is clearly the better player compared to Quinnen Williams. No matter how good Quinnen is, the two of them paired with someone like Osa Odiazua might shore things up on the interior, but it wouldn't necessarily make the defense better overall. In fact, trading away Parsons could actually weaken the Cowboys' edge rush, which has been one of their strengths. With the Jets holding onto the first-round picks at edge, they're not likely to give up much for Micah, especially since they have to pay big contracts to players like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Both sides might just decide it's better to keep their core players rather than making a costly trade. For the Cowboys, it might just be simpler and wiser to invest in keeping Parsons and building around him rather than breaking up one of their biggest assets. I'm curious where you would rank Micah Parsons among all defensive players in the NFL right now. Is he top 5, top 10? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this guy's impact on the field is undeniable. Then there's the situation with Tyler Booker losing his starting job. Well, sort of. It's more accurate to say that Robert Jones took over for a day or so during practice, but it didn't last. From what I've gathered, it seems the Cowboys coaching staff was dealing with a rookie wall feeling from Jones, so they switched back to Booker with the first team pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Jones then suffered a broken bone in his neck during practice, which will sideline him for a few weeks. So, Booker really didn't lose the job permanently. It was more like a temporary shuffle due to injury and practice performance. These kinds of shifts happen all the time in the NFL. especially when teams are managing young players and trying to figure out the best combinations. It's a reminder of how fragile player roles can be and how injuries throw a wrench into team plans. The recent contract extension for Jake Ferguson is another move worth discussing. On one hand, locking up a player early like that can be a smart strategy. If you wait too long, the market tends to inflate, and you end up paying a premium for guys who have proven themselves. The Cowboys seem to have a pattern of doing these early deals for players who are solid contributors, but maybe not superstars yet. They did it with Jalen Smith, Terrence Steele, Trayvon Diggs, and others, getting them signed before their value spikes to high. It's a way to control costs while keeping good talent on the roster. Ferguson's deal is a clear win for Dak Prescott as well, because having a reliable tight end he knows and trusts makes a difference on offense. Getting ahead of the market like this shows confidence in the player and can be team-friendly down the line, especially if the market for tight ends plateaus or drops a bit. These moves demonstrate that the Cowboys are willing to invest in stability, even if it means paying a bit earlier than some teams might. It's a balancing act, but it's one that can pay off if the evaluations are accurate. Speaking of contracts, the situation with someone like Trevon Diggs or other corners raises some interesting questions too. There's debate about whether Diggs is better playing in the slot or on the outside. He's shown he can do both, but his best season was mostly spent on the outside, where he racked up interceptions and pick sixes. Some argue he's more effective in the nickel, but I'm hesitant to say he's strictly better in one spot. His versatility is part of what makes him valuable. That said, contract negotiations get complicated when you start factoring in position-specific pay. Outside corners generally command higher salaries than slot corners, so if a player's best fit is nickel, that could impact what the team offers. The Cowboys might want to offer nickel money, but will he accept it? Finding a middle ground is tricky, and that's the kind of negotiation that can define a player's future with the team. The nuances of where a player lines up on the field can affect contract talks in ways that fans don't always realize. Looking ahead, the cornerback market is something the Cowboys are definitely monitoring. Free agent options like Stephon Gilmore might still be available, but it's likely the team will wait to see how their young corners perform in training camp and preseason before making any big moves. Gilmore's signing could happen later in the offseason, depending on how everything shakes out. Meanwhile, the draft looms as an opportunity to bolster the position. The Cowboys have to weigh whether corner is their biggest need, or if other areas demand more urgent attention. Players like Avon Terrell from Clemson are on the radar, but it's too early to predict who exactly will be the pick. The draft is where all these questions get answered, and the Cowboys will be looking for value and potential to improve their secondary for the long haul. When it comes to the future of defensive linemen like Mazi Smith, the outlook is a bit uncertain. The Cowboys face a decision on whether to pick up his fifth-year option, and right now it doesn't look likely unless he makes a significant leap this season. His development so far hasn't justified a long-term commitment yet, and the team will be watching closely before pulling the trigger. That decision will come next spring, but the signs aren't promising at this moment. Meanwhile, Madden simulations and fan predictions about playoff curses or early exits add an extra layer of drama, but those are more fun and speculation than anything definitive. The real story is how the team performs on the field, week after week, under the bright lights. All of these moving parts, the coaching evolution, player development, contract strategies, injury management, and draft prospects, paint a complex picture of a team trying to navigate the ups and downs of a competitive NFL season. It's a balancing act of managing talent, finances, and expectations, while always keeping an eye on the ultimate goal, winning games and making a deep playoff run. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. The air in Chicago feels different today. The pads were on, the intensity was high, and the energy through the roof. The Bears just wrapped up their longest training camp practice yet, 2.5 hours of non-stop reps, competition, and standout moments as the month of July comes to a close. This team is starting to look like it's hitting another gear, and one name in particular is lighting up the camp chatter: Luther Burden III. If you haven't been paying attention, now's the time. This guy might have just arrived for real. But before we dive deep into Pound 3's breakout performance, let's talk about the overall tone of the day. Practice was crisp, competitive, Football is officially in the air. Folks, it's not just that. Football is back on our screens. It's that the Bears are starting to look like a team that's coming together in the right ways. Caleb Williams continues to show flashes of exactly why he was taken first overall, and today, maybe his best day yet, but more on him in a second. Back to Luther Burden. This guy is catching fire, and it's not just hype anymore, it's showing up on the field. Coaches have been cautiously optimistic so far, noting his need to catch up after missing OTA letters, minicamp, and the early part of training camp, but over the last 3 practices, he's been steadily building momentum. Today, it exploded. From one-on-one drills to full team reps, Burden was putting on a clinic. It was the kind of practice that makes coaches take notice. That makes quarterbacks trust the guy more. That makes fans start typing his initials in all caps in the comments. There were at least 5 or 6 standout plays, and fans lucky enough to be there caught them on camera early in one-on-ones. He beat his man deep and hauled in a perfectly placed bomb from Tyson Bagent. The footwork, the acceleration, the route textbook. Later, in team drills with the first unit, he lined up in the right slot and ran a deep crossing route. Caleb Williams threaded it into a tight window, and Luther made it look easy, coming down with the ball in stride. Then came another one with Bagent, this time a deep comeback along the sideline, sliding to the turf and securing the ball with strong hands. That's 3 highlight plays. But truthfully, it felt like every time he was on the field, something happened. What stands out isn't just the catches, it's the way he's moving. He's twitchy, quick, fast in that short area burst kind of way, and he's got strength in his hands. Can high point the football and seems to be absorbing the playbook faster each day. Coaches said it before practice, his play speed stood out yesterday. After today, it's impossible to ignore, even with limited time to learn the system. He's proving he's a natural. And if this is what he's showing now, imagine what he could be in a few weeks when he's fully caught up. And then there's Caleb. The number 1 pick is starting to look like the number 1 pick. It's becoming a theme. Another day, another standout practice. And yeah, we've said best practice yet more than once recently. But that's the point. He's stacking days. You want your quarterback getting sharper, quicker, more confident each session, and that's what's happening. What stood out today was the full range of throws. It wasn't just timing routes or basic reads. Caleb was showing off touch, arm strength, improvisation, you name it. That layered ball to Burden on the deep crosser, pure anticipation. Later, he faced simulated pressure, rolled right, avoided a free rusher, cut back into the pocket, and dropped a 40-yard dime from the right hash. The ball arsed perfectly into the hands of Olamide Zakos, hitting him in stride for a gain of nearly 50 yards. It was clean, controlled chaos, and Caleb owned it. There was more. He drew a free play, saw the safety hesitate, and launched a vertical shot to Romo Duns again. Ball placement was perfect right between the corner and safety in a real game. The safety might have delivered a hit, but on tape, it's a throw that makes you nod and go, yep, that's the guy. Then came a laser over the middle to Miles Boykin, threading it through traffic. It's the kind of arsenal that not many quarterbacks have, and Caleb's putting it all on display. Whether it's in rhythm or off script, he's starting to look comfortable, and confidence from your QB. That's contagious. Ben Johnson talked about it, too. You can see the growth. You can hear it in how Caleb talks, how he carries himself. You want that internal fire, but you also want that calmness, that control, and it's starting to show. The offense is still getting tested daily by a defense that's throwing the kitchen sink at them. That's what good camp battles are made of. Dennis Allen isn't holding anything back. He's bringing exotic looks, man coverage, disguised pressures, and the offense is learning how to respond, but it's not all sunshine. Let's keep it real, this defense has pride, and they're not getting run over for the second time in 3 days. The defense won the 2-minute drill. Caleb's drive ended with an interception by Tyreek Stevenson after a 4th down scramble drill. Didn't pan out. Earlier in that drive, there were checkdowns, a sack from Montez Sweat, and a few incompletions. It was a reminder that this group has teeth and they're not going to just let the offense dominate without a fight. That said, Tyson Bagent and the second-team offense responded to 4th and 10 conversions in their 2-minute situation, and they capped it off with a touchdown to Joel Wilson, who had a sneaky good day himself. Maybe something to keep an eye on there. For now, Bagent looks like he's ahead of Case Keenum in the backup quarterback race. It's still early, but he's making a case. There's also a developing situation at cornerback. Jalen Johnson's status has gone from just a few weeks to there's a scenario where he's ready for week 1. That shift in language is worth noting. It doesn't scream confidence. It sounds more like cautious optimism, like they're preparing for life without him just in case. And that's a big deal. Week 1 is against the Vikings. That means Justin Jefferson, potentially Jordan Addison, if he's not suspended by then, and if Johnson's out. You're looking at Tyreek Stevenson and either Terrell Smith or Q Blue Kelly on the outside. That's not ideal, especially for a defense that wants to play a lot of man. The silver lining, these young corners are getting valuable reps. Dennis Allen said the CB job is wide open, and with Johnson out, everybody's getting a shot. Smith, Stevenson, Wright, even undrafted guys like McLeod are in the mix. They're rotating, testing different combinations, trying to see who steps up under pressure. It's not the scenario you want, but it's giving them a real look at their depth. Elsewhere on the roster, left tackle is still a question mark, as Trapilo wasn't repping with the ones during install, but he was back with them during team drills. It's a subtle detail, but it might suggest he's inching ahead in that battle. Braxton Jones, meanwhile, got beat badly by rookie Austin Booker at one point. That won't help his case, with a day off coming tomorrow. Ben Johnson mentioned that the coaching staff will use that time for personnel meetings to reassess where each battle stands. By Saturday, we could have a clearer picture. DJ Moore also continues to pop. He's been lining up in the backfield more often, and it looks like the Bears are cooking up ways to get him more touches out of multiple alignments. Given the question marks in the running back room, this might be the move. Just get him the ball, let him create. He's explosive, and the more you can put the ball in his hands, the better off this offense will be. Injury-wise, Jonah Jackson didn't practice today. He was labeled day-to-day yesterday, so it's not panic mode yet, but definitely something to monitor. Ryan Bates got most of the first-team reps at right guard, with Doug Kramer rotating in as well. And then there's the long snapper situation. Scott Daly was carted off toward the end of practice. The details are murky. Did he walk off first and then ride the cart to the locker room? Or did he go down during a play and need help off? Either way, it's one to watch. Rookie Luke Elkin, who has experience snapping to Tory Taylor at Iowa, is the next man up. All in all, it's been a day full of movement. Real reps, real competition, and most importantly, real growth. The offense is starting to gel. The defense isn't backing down, and the young talent is rising. Luther Burden III made a statement today. Caleb Williams keeps proving why he was the top pick. The cornerback battle is heating up, and there's a vibe and energy that says this team is building toward something. As we push into the second half of this recap, let's zero in on the things that really matter: progression, competition, and chemistry. And right now, all three are happening simultaneously inside Hollis Hall. The Bears are a team in motion, not just going through the motions, but actively evolving on both sides of the ball. Every rep seems to mean something. Every drill has purpose, whether it's a first-round pick sharpening his reads or a fringe roster player trying to claw his way onto the final 53. There's a hunger across the board that you can feel through the footage, the reports, and even the players' body language. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below.